Sacrifice game is interesting and it's different for everyone. Sometimes the sacrifice you make is the thing that you really want. So what does that mean? I was having a conversation the other day with a Tmap student, and the exciting part, the borrowing capacity has come back, and it's like, okay, so here's the borrowing capacity. And this sometimes happens. Sometimes the borrowing capacity ain't enough to buy what you want. So what you want becomes the sacrifice. But hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. What do you do when the borrowing capacity you get is clearly not enough for you to go and buy the property that you wanted? In this instance, it meant the family would have to buy a unit instead of buying a house. And sometimes that's a difficult decision to make. Sometimes it's a bit hard for the family, especially speaking to the mom, and she's like, oh, you know, we really wanted a big house. And here's the thing, right? In speaking with her, we laid out what are the options. And it was interesting because I said to her, well, the option one is to do nothing, right? Oh, I can't buy what I want, so therefore I'm going to do nothing, right? Option two is you buy what you can afford now to get what you really want later. That's called the Tmap Two-Step. And when I said those two options, she said the third option. She goes, or we could wait. And I said, well, isn't that interesting? I said, what do you think happens if you wait? What happens? And she goes, well, Massey, I think that the property prices will go up. And man, I'm telling you now, that's exactly what happens, guys. You know, the waiting strategy is probably the worst one. Generally what happens when people wait is they can't save enough to get to the number that they want, and so they don't end up with an outcome. The challenging part is in their mind, they're saying the problem is that they can't borrow enough money, but that's not the problem, guys. The real problem is you're trying to buy something that you can't afford. And to illustrate this, I had a conversation with her. She's a mum, she's got 3 daughters, and one of them is in high school, getting to that end of high school, HSC, that latter stage of high school. You know, I said to her, well, I said, can I give you an example? She's like, yeah, hit me with it. So imagine your daughter, she's got her year 12 formal coming up, and she comes home one day and she says, Mom, I found the perfect dress for my year 12 formal. It is amazing, it's gorgeous, I really want it. The dress is $20,000. I said to her, if she came home and had that conversation with you, what would be your response to her? And she kind of laughed and she was a bit uneasy, and she's like, well, you know, I have to tell her, she can't buy a $20,000 dress, that's crazy. And I said, isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that as a mum, you understand that if your daughter come home and said that she wanted to buy a dress that you guys can't afford, you would understand that it wouldn't make sense for her to buy that dress. I said, but can you see the same thing when it comes to property? Like, is this you guys? Can you not see that it is exactly the same when it comes to property? It's like coming home and like, oh, I found the perfect house. That's 3.8 million. Bro, you just have to buy what you can afford. And sometimes that is the sacrifice. But what people don't understand, especially first homeowners, what they don't understand is the property that you don't like is going to increase in value and enable you to buy the property that you do. People don't understand that. People who don't own property think it's one and done. They think I'm buying this property, and because I'm buying that property, I can never get the property that I really want. That ain't it, guys. That ain't it. Yes, you have to sacrifice. Yes, you have to buy, you know, in this instance, you would have to buy a unit because that's what you can afford. And I mean, not buy a little bit, like that's it, man. That's where you at. But accepting, being humble enough and accepting that that's where you are at, making a decision to take action, buying the best property for the borrowing capacity that you have. That's your job. Just like when you go and buy a dress. You're not gonna focus on the fact that you can't buy a $20,000 dress. You're gonna focus on finding the best dress for your daughter so she can look amazing and have the time of her life at a year 12 formal within your budget. If your budget is 200 or 300 or 500 or whatever the number is, you're just gonna find the best dress within that price range. She's gonna look amazing. She's gonna have the time of her life, and she's gonna thank you for it. And it is the same with property, guys, except unlike the dress, that property is gonna go up in value, right? So especially you out there, you Tmap mums, I need you to connect with this and I need you to understand this, especially when you're trying to buy your first home, right? Buying property is totally unlike anything you've ever done before, because almost everything else you've purchased to this point in your life has gone down in value after the moment that you've purchased it. Whereas property is different. Property is going to go up in value. That property that you don't really like, that you kind of just bought because that's what you could afford, yeah, that is the gateway property to you getting the house that you really want. But you've got to be humble enough to start where you are, to buy what you can afford now to get what you really want later. And if you're willing to do that, I'll see you at the top of the mountain.